First item on that particular agenda is city manager discuss the agenda items that we have coming on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight on your consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes for the January 21st regular meeting. Item 4B is just a resolution to call the joint election for Saturday, May 2nd. The Texas Election Code requires that the council call for an election and that it be done not later than the 71st day before election day. And so the deadline is actually next Friday, February 14th, to call that election. There will be a future item for you that would be the contract with Dallas County for conducting the election. This is just calling for the election, and that is for Mayor, Council District 2, and Council District 4. Item 4C, we are requesting that item be removed from the agenda. That is for household hazardous waste grant, and we found out this week that we did not move forward in the grant process, so this is a moot point.
Okay. For your consideration, I'd like to propose or have you think about, consider under item 5A, item for individual consideration, to move that to item for consent. It's basically a procedural thing on the destruction and archiving of records and inactivity of an election candidates, treasurers, seating, and so on and so forth. To me, it complies with state law.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the key. So what we're doing is bringing our regulations into conformance with state law, making it easier to discard whatever records are not necessary to be kept around. And I think that we can, if it's all right with y'all, we'll move this to consent.
I would agree.
Okay.
It's going to put us in compliance with state law. There's really nothing to.
Right, there's no debate about it. I mean, we're actually updating ourselves to be more efficient. Yes, sir.
Please make the announcement in open session.
Yes, we'll do that. Yep.
If you would know also that 4C.
I've got that, and yeah, I will cover that. So basically, our city council is going to be executive session, and we will have briefings on staff and board reports for items 6A, B, and C. Except for proclamations and presentations and any citizen input. That's going to be the essence of our meeting tonight. Should be pretty quick. Okay, great. Moving on to, no, we do have executive session. I understand. That will be executive session. So we'll basically call the meeting to order. We'll go through this, read the consent agenda items. I'll say what's not going to be covered anymore, that one item to be removed. We're taking the item for individual consideration to consent, and then we're going into executive session.
We may be able to get to executive session just before the regular session starts, depending on how quickly we get through the next two, the briefing.
All right, okay. So let's go on to item 2, briefings and presentations, strategic hedging program for the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, TCAP. Mr. Sutton.
Okay, I'd just like to turn this over to Margaret Sunbury. She's the Executive Director of TCAP, and I'll just turn it over to her for the presentation.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Mayor.
How do you spell your last name?
S-O-M-E-R-E-V-E.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So, Mayor, City Council, thank you so much for letting me come and talk to you all tonight. I will try and do this quickly so you can get out of here. We wanted to come and talk to you about the TCAP strategic hedging program. It's how we're suggesting that we purchase electricity moving forward in the future. And it's very different than what we've been doing in the past for the city of Duncanville. They've usually been 5 years, 3 years fixed contracts. So let me just real briefly, see if I can get this to work. Just real briefly go over who is TCAP. We have 165 members within the deregulated area of the ERCOT market. You can see all the dots. There's 89 members Here in the North Zone, I say members because not only do we have cities, we also have special utility districts, we have housing authorities, any political subdivision in the deregulated market can join TCAP. In 1999, the Texas legislature deregulated the electric market effective in 2002. The city's aggregation power project was formed back in 2002 with 82 political subdivisions. The city of Duncanville was one of the founding members back in '02. There was another group in Texas called the South Texas Aggregation Project, STAP, and STAP and CAP used the same consultant, same general counsel through all those years, and CAP and STAP merged in 2011 for efficiencies, and we became TCAP.
Is TCAP, what is the organizational structure of TCAP? What is it? It's not a 501c3, what is it?
It's a nonprofit political subdivision corporation. And unfortunately, if you ask me which 50 whatever that is, I do not have that.
It's a 501 something.
It's a 501 something.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was curious. No, that's fine. I was curious where exactly, under what authority you were established.
We're actually, in the deregulation law, there's a section that was put into effect that talks about municipal aggregation, and we're in that section.
Okay.
Why TCAP? We're a nonprofit organization. We're by cities for cities. We pool our energy to negotiate lower rates. And cities have very similar energy patterns. The red line represents all of ERCOT and how energy is used throughout the day. The blue line represents TCAP. And as you can see, when ERCOT is low, typically overnight, when energy demands are low overnight, TCAP is higher. Then during the days when, 4 or 5 o'clock when people are getting home and cranking their air conditioners on, we're actually lower, which makes the TCAP load a very favorable load when we go out into the market because we need power when ERCOT doesn't. And the reason for that is because cities overnight are turning on street lights and pump stations and that. So most of the usage is in overnight hours. We have a 15-member board. That is elected by our membership. We have 6 places that represent large members, 3 places that represent medium-sized usage. When I say large, I mean usage, how many kilowatts they use in a year, medium-sized cities. We have 2 small members and the rest are at-large, those people that run for the board that don't fit into those other places when they get votes. And you can see that Duncanville is represented by place 7 by Richard Summerlin. So our current contract ends in December 2022, and we've developed a new procurement method that we've been meeting with our members to get their feedback on. And this new method should eliminate the timing the market to get the best price, and I'll go over that here in a minute. Right now, the reason we're coming to you all is that right now the U.S. is the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas. You can see the Department of Energy's forecasted production and forecast prices, relatively stable on prices and relatively stable on production. So we have a very well fueled market, so to speak, with oil and natural gas. The U.S. energy market should be stable. They predict abundant supply, stable pricing. They also predict that electric prices should be stable. The Texas market, we've had some short-term volatility in the last 2 years due to coal plant retirements in 2018, and we have had some problems where there was excess generation was needed over peak demand the last 2 years, but that's improving very quickly. What happened was there were 5 coal plants that announced in late 2018 that they were going to go offline, and 4 months later they went offline and didn't give anyone enough time to put anything else in that place for that, the coal plants going offline. So what we're going to talk about. This graph, and it's representative for North Zone pricing, which Duncanville's in the North Zone. And it starts in 2019. If we change the numbers at the bottom and it said 2018, 19, it would be the same if we go back 4 years. And the reason it is like this is because we do have such a well-supplied market. pricing when you go out for electricity, the first year, if we were getting you a contract for next year, the prices are not good. We're doing that right now for a member, a potential member, and prices are up over 4 cents, which is high right now in this market. And the reason it is because we had a summer where the prices were, or the usage was so high, the reserve margin, there wasn't enough energy, you know, we could have gone into blackouts, we didn't. So the market gets a little nervous, and so they kind of put the prices up a little high in the short term. What we see though moving forward is in 20 and 21 the prices start falling to, you know, very low prices. And what happens is that the market feels that the short-term problems will be resolved in another year or two. Then when you start going further out, you can see 23, 24, 25, and so forth, the prices keep slowly increasing. And the reason they increase is because of the risk of the future market and not quite sure what's going to happen in the market. So the energy companies basically put carrying costs on there, kind of an insurance premium, just in case, because they don't know what the market's going to be. You don't see those insurance premiums or carrying cost in that 2-year dip. And so what we're suggesting is, okay, let me go back. What we're suggesting is that we buy electricity in that 2-year dip. And we'll talk about that here in a second. And the reason we're suggesting that is because on this chart, you'll see the blue line represents all of the prices within a year's time frame. And that's the problem, predicting when the price is going to be the absolute lowest to lock you into a long-term contract.
What does SHB stand for?
Strategic hedging. And you can see, you know, 2011, 2019, the prices ranged all over the place. And electricity prices are only good for a 24-hour period, and then they change. And, but you can...
Good. We as residences are used to buying kilowatts. Are these kilowatts or megawatt prices?
These are megawatts.
Okay, I had a feeling.
And so, but you can see over time that the average price is pretty stable there. And so that was why we were coming to you with the strategic hedging. And what we're suggesting, proposing is that we're going to do an RFP process very differently. We're going to go out to a pool of 20 vetted, credit-worthy suppliers. There's going to, for RFPs, and we're going to do it monthly. And we're going to do it 1/12 every month for a year, and we're only going to buy the electricity 2 years in advance. So in 2021, we're going to start buying the electricity for 2023. In 2022, we'll buy for 2024. So we're always staying in that dip. And the reason we're going to have 4 suppliers in the portfolio at all times is to make sure that the prices are low. We also don't want one supplier kind of gobbling up all of our business to drive everybody else away and then slowly drive the prices back up again. And of course, since we're doing it monthly, the suppliers can be added or deleted as desired, or if we see a problem with somebody. There's going to be multiple RFPs for each year's procurement to mitigate any risks. And it avoids that all-in guess of that single fixed price. You know, is today the lowest day the price is going to be if we're going to try and get a 5-year contract like we did last time. What we're also going to do, it's very different, I know, but we're going to do it 12 times, you know, each month. And at the end of the year, what you do is then you average the price, and that's your one price for the year. We will know that at the end of the year, so we will be coming back to all of our members and telling you what the price is in the March timeframe before you go into budget. So when we're done in 21 buying 23's pricing, you'll know in March of 22 what 23's price is before we get there, before your budget sessions start, your budget discussions. The other thing that this does is it avoids having to explain a long-term out market contract price to citizens. If you remember, if you were on council back in 11, 12, right before the market fell and, you know, all of the fracking came and gas prices, just, you know, all the natural gas. We had a 9-cent contract, and you probably got people knocking on your doors going, but it's a 3-cent market. And you were in a long-term contract that would have been very hard to get out of. This avoids that because you're always in the market. So you're not going to be locked into a long-term contract when the market has changed. This gives some flexibility so that you're always staying with those lower prices. The other thing that this also provides for is what we're calling periodic off-ramps to allow members to revert to a long-term fixed price. So if you're doing this for a year or two and go, just don't like it, we're not comfortable with it, we want to convert to a fixed term contract. We can do that. There's going to be periods where you can convert it to a fixed term contract. The other thing is if we see the market going crazy, if something happens, the market flips upside down, we can then come to our members and go, we're locking you in. We're not going to do this any longer. And this just kind of shows you a timeline. So we're trying to get our 165 members to all get everything in place by the end of September, so that the last quarter of the year we can put everything together and see where we're at. In January, we'll start the purchasing for 2023. 2022, we'll start for 2024. And then you can see about March, you'll know what your 2023 price is in 2022. The red boxes are those off-ramps. If a member wants to get off, or if for some reason we see the prices going nowhere but up, we would then convert it. This shows you analysis. Our energy consultant went back to 2016 and he went back, did all the pricing. He gets prices weekly, daily, and so he went back and he built what this would have looked like if we had done this in 2016. The green line is your current contract price, and you can see that under a strategic hedging plan, the prices would have been lower every year. 2021 bumps up there because of, like I said, the summer we just had, but again, it's still lower than your current price. For example, that 2019 price is sitting at about 3.3 cents. That's not quite a half a cent on a kilowatt. That would have saved the city of Duncanville around $35,000 for that year. So even going back, the worst case, this is kind of in between an average case. He went back and looked at it worst case, you know, the worst rate possible, and it was still a 2% savings year over year. Best case was 32% savings. Again, the energy futures look bright. The strategic hedging is a unique opportunity for our members. It's structured in such a way that it avoids the buyer's remorse for that all-in guess. It avoids the carrying charges and risk premiums when you're going for longer term contracts. You'll know your future energy price prior to your budgeting cycle, and it's flexible, it's adaptable to the market changes, and you can convert to a fixed price at any time if you're not comfortable. So the next step, after I answer all your questions, what we need is one of the things that is new that we've never had is a professional services agreement. Because TCAP is going to be more of an energy manager, we need a document in place that pretty much spells out everything that we're going to provide to the city. It's all the things we currently provide to you all, except for the strategic hedging, that has never been formalized before. And every year we get members that go, where's the agreement between TCAP and the city? And we've never done that before. You've just passed a resolution. So we'll need that. And as part of the, we have a resolution, the professional service agreement, and the commercial electric service agreement, which is called a CISA. It looks just like your current CISA that you have right now. The only difference is it talks about strategic hedging instead of just a one fixed price that's in the contract. But it's the exact same contract. And again, the procurement begins January of 2021. And that's all I have.
Margaret, our current contract expires in 2023, correct?
December 31st, 2022.
Okay, 22. So that's why you want to start purchasing in 2021 with a 2-year out window so that it picks up as soon as our
Yes.
current contract expires.
Yes.
So, and that contract is a 5-year contract that we have now.
Yes.
So in market procurement semantics, basically a 5-year contract would be a hedging contract anyhow.
Well, let me go back to this chart real quick and show you. So in a 5-year contract, let's say we were buying a contract for 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27, and those would be the rates. What you're doing at that point is taking those prices for those 5 years, and you can see they're higher, and you average it out. And so you're paying those carrying costs and those insurance costs. And so, and you are in the current contract just because of the nature of it. Strategic hedging gets rid of those costs.
But you said under strategic hedging, you're still going to be doing 12 RFPs a year?
Yes,
To me, that looks like spot market versus hedging.
but we're buying it 2 years in advance. We're not buying, spot market would be we're buying it for tomorrow.
Oh, today for
Tomorrow, right.
Versus today for 2 years in advance.
Right. And if for some reason, if a month looks really bad, we'll just skip that month and just buy 2/12 the next month. So it gives us some flexibility there as well in case something goes crazy and everybody's, spiked the prices up, 2 years out. I mean-
August, this past year was an example, I put that in the staff memo, where ERCOT, we had the prediction that we were gonna be so close to our residuals that there was gonna be a spike in the market in August, and it did occur. It went up to like the maximum allowable under law.
So yes, anyone that was buying their electricity contract on the spot market paid $9 a kilowatt during that period.
Wow.
Good night. Okay. So this document, what'd you call it again?
The professional services agreement.
You've already received a draft of it?
Yes.
We already have a hand? Okay.
Mhm.
So when do we need to execute that?
We would, like I said, the absolute deadline is September. We would like you to adopt it sooner, if possible, for several reasons. We have a lot of cities that are just waiting to see who else kind of passes it right now. The cities of Watauga and Harker Heights have both passed all the agreements. The city of Allen, their council is going to pass them. We talked to them in study session. They were all in favor of it. They've just got to get the documents on. We're hoping, the more cities that we can get on earlier, it'll help get the other 160. There's a lot of cities, and so we're just trying to get as many as possible here because right now there's just me and Bill Starnes, who's in Victoria right now at their council meeting. So trying to get to all of the council meetings is.
And that magic number is a number that Bill, I think, put together, that we need that many entities participating in order for strategic hedging
We
to
do.
be feasible.
We need.
If we don't get them, we're gonna have to stick with the
Fixed
the
price.
rate.
That's
Fixed price.
true. We need about 1/3 of our kilowatt usage of all our members. So the more of the larger and medium-sized cities that we can get, the more this will just kind of, pick up momentum and keep going.
So how many cities does our seat represent?
How many cities does our seat? I'm a voting member on the board, and we make decisions that affect everyone.
Mhm.
Okay.
So there's only so many seats allocated to medium-sized
15.
members.
There's
Yeah,
15 members on the board. We have, yes,
just-
we have about 36 medium-sized cities. 36, 34 medium-sized cities. Yes, the way it's divided out. We have 130-something small cities, or 120, and then I think our large cities are
So what
14.
cities are in place 7? So I guess is what I'm asking.
It's
It's
statewide.
It's
It's statewide.
Oh, it's
not-
statewide.
Yeah, it's not by a district.
Oh,
It's just
I was
all of
thinking
the,
it was
all of,
geographic.
it's all of the medium-sized cities.
Is this,
in the
that's the
state.
169?
Right, have 3 seats, but again, like Rich said,
I got it.
the board is making the decisions for all of TCAP.
Mhm.
Yeah, because look, like Corpus Christi and Tomball, some of them are far away.
Yeah. It's all over the state.
But do
TCAP,
you, I'm sorry, of all the member cities, are you looking for each of the member cities to come up with that agreement? Or
Yes.
just, that's kind of where I'm asking the question, is that what we do doesn't necessarily mean that you as a board member for place 7 have any authority over the rest of the member
Correct.
member cities.
no.
So you're looking for 169 or so.
Mhm.
To make it feasible.
That's what I was trying to get
Yes.
my hand on. Okay.
So they're gonna be visiting a lot of cities,
A lot of cities.
doing this very thing. So we wanted to get them early. We had the preliminary presentation from them as staff a couple of months ago, and they said they were wanting to start meeting with council, so we wanted to try to get them here early enough in the year to visit, and answer questions, and get your all's, you know, if you want to come back, we'll bring it back relatively soon.
So Richard, you've already studied this and pretty comfortable with.
Since when Bill came up with this idea and talked to us about it probably over a year ago, I was sold with it. And then when he went back and did the modeling and proved it out mathematically, I'm completely hooked on it. I do not think this can be defeated. The only way this can be defeated is if we have an escalation in prices, and they've already built that in, that if that were to happen, we'll switch from this variable strategic hedging for futures to a fixed rate.
Is that something you also, with your peers, discuss with your peers, just to kind of get their thoughts as well, to see if you guys are all thinking the same way?
Well, obviously, we've discussed it at the board level, and the board is made up of, there's a couple of finance directors, there's several city managers on that board, there's even a council member on the board, there's several attorneys on that board, and we've all discussed this and looked at it and picked at it.
Well, I mean, I probably surrounding cities, even though they're part
Well,
of, they may not be a part of this.
When you and Bill came, we met in Cedar Hill. Was it just us in Cedar Hill, or was
There's just
DeSoto
you
there?
at Cedar Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. But Cedar Hill was interested in it too. I don't know if they scheduled the briefing or not.
Because they're not on it at this time.
Pardon me?
They are not on it at this time.
Not on the, well, no one's on the strategic hedging end, but I don't know.
I mean, they're not a member of this.
Yeah,
They
Cedar
are.
Hill is a member of TCAP.
Yeah, Cedar Hill is a
Yeah,
member.
They're a member of TCAP as well.
Okay.
So
Cedar
they came out
Hill.
and briefed us, and I know they were interested in it. I just don't know if they've scheduled it with their council.
Okay.
Not yet, but just in this area, Cedar Hill, Duncanville, DeSoto, Lancaster, Midlothian are all members of TCAP.
All right, thank you, Ms. Winkler.
And the other way that cities are buying is what?
The fixed price, longer term contract, either 3 to 5 years.
Now,
Because we see them at TML, all the different.
yeah, so a few cities, and Marty, you might miss, I mean, some cities have gone on their own and not through TCAP, and have negotiated contracts on their own too.
What makes TCAP very different, and when you do see people like Tradition Energy or PPM, those are some of Energy by 5, those companies are brokers. What makes TCAP very unique is that because of the way we're set up in the deregulation law, we're allowed to go into the wholesale market. Brokers, when they go for a contract, they have to go to a retail electric provider. And then the retail electric provider has to go find the energy contract. And then you are tied to that retail electric provider. So if that provider gives you bad service, you can't really do anything during the term of your contract, because we're able to go into the wholesale market and negotiate rates and contracts. We don't have to go through the retail electric provider, which also saves costs that we don't get charged. We do have a retail electric provider, it's JEXA, but they are strictly for billing. And if JEXA does not provide customer service to a level that we think is appropriate, we can get rid of them and get someone else. That actually happened about 5 years ago. We were with Direct Energy. The board was not happy with the customer service that Direct Energy was giving our members, went out for RFPs, and the board hired JEXA Energy as our retail electric provider. During that time, the energy contract did not change because that's a separate contract with the wholesale, the provider. And so that sets us up in a very unique situation that the brokers cannot do.
So it's staff's recommendation to agree with this? with
Yes,
this
it
program?
would be our recommendation that we move forward with the professional service contract and get this strategic hedging program in place.
Is Waxahachie and Midlothian, are they members?
Midlothian's a member. We've tried to get Waxahachie to be a member. They used to be. They were a member of CAP. Waxahachie went with a local company that's based out of Red Oak called Texon. Their prices are higher than ours. Why Waxahachie has stayed with them,
I can tell you why.
What?
Relationships. Not necessarily business decisions, but relationships.
We did have, just to let you know, we did have some members that thought they could do better when our contract expired in 17. Of the cities that left, the prices we know, all of them are paying a higher price. Of the 10 cities, the prices that we know of 10 cities, their taxpayers combined are paying $1.3 million more a year than if they'd stayed with TCAP.
Well, we want the lowest.
Well, and we are, my background is city government. I worked for 3 cities here in the Metroplex. The board is made up of cities. We're not in it for money. We're nonprofit, so nobody on our board is going to try and, bring rates or ideas to councils that would not be good for everybody. And like Richard said, we have a lot of finance directors, we have several city managers, we have a mayor, we have a council member, we have several city attorneys up there. So it's a very diverse board. And it represents all of Texas.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. City marketing campaign, item 2B. April Riley, our PIO.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and guests. My name is April Riley. I'm the Public Information Officer for the city. And tonight I'm going to give you a brief 100,000-foot overview of a couple of our marketing initiatives we have going on right now, as well as catch you up with what we've been doing since you adopted the logo last March. So this does align with the 2020 City Council pillar to advance the marketing strategy for the city, but this is by no means an honest attempt at reaching the goals that you had outlined in your strategy session. This is what we're doing day to day to enrich our brand, if you will. So the logo was officially rolled out in July of 2019. So for the last 7 months or so, we've been doing a full review of where we need to swap out the old logo with the new mark, including our website and on our social media. We did talk about this logo being rolled out over time through attrition. So as signs wore down and started looking shabby, then we would replace it with the new logo. We wanted to be very smart with the money and how we were going to move forward with that. So obviously the Lakeside Park Pavilion is almost complete, and we've got the brand new logo up there. It looks fantastic. In case you haven't been out there yet, I highly recommend it. Beautiful pavilion. What you see where it says park closed, those are Harrington Park signs. I don't believe they're even up yet. So you're going to start seeing these types of signs come out with the logo, and bear with us because this is long term, and I can't stress that enough, that it's going to take a while to start seeing street signs across the city, for example, swap out with the new logo.
There's a lot of street toppers up with it all, though.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of those around the city.
We'll touch on that. Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So as the mayor mentioned, the street signs and toppers, there were 408 sign toppers and street signs installed, and I believe 136 of those, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, those were the actual toppers themselves. But we went ahead and swapped out those street signs, as you can see on the right, and those look very nice. The overhead illuminated signs, we've completed 7 intersections, including the one at Main and Davis. Main and Davis has the new illuminated street sign. So if you want to see how that looks, that intersection is really nice. As far as vehicles go, we're slowly kind of taking inventory and looking at what we need to do to swap those out. We've identified 4 that are looking shabby and are ready for a swap out. So those are in the works. But we have already swapped out a Parks and Rec vehicle, and you can see the city marshal's truck on the right, which was a unique application for the logo, and it looks really sharp. Any new vehicles we're purchasing, obviously will all have the new brand on them. So this makes a great segue into our multicultural social engagement partnership and what that group is doing. And I have Tammy Abney in the audience here. She's the vice president of the board. So thank you for coming, and she's here to answer your questions. But I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of background. Over the last year, the commission has been working on a Celebrating Culture public awareness campaign. And we've got a fluid document, if you will, that sets guidelines for this campaign. And as you can see, if you would like copies, I know that's kind of hard to see. I printed some copies for you here. So as you can see, the Celebrating Culture, the large blue block in the middle, that outlines monthly culturally significant events that the commission has approved, and again, they approved this in July of last year, for the city to promote, to build inclusivity, to promote culture building, and really kind of celebrate the diversity in Duncanville. The goal of the campaign is to engage our residents through storytelling. So the commissioners have been assigned articles related to each month, and I believe we're out through April. All articles have been assigned. And those articles are published monthly. They're vetted through the commission, and the commission has put various standards in place. In case we can't meet, then it's subject to the PIO's approval and things like that, so that we make sure that we keep this campaign moving. We didn't want to get stuck anywhere. The plan includes some framework. For example, we're looking for articles that are 500 words or less. We really aren't wanting novels. We're wanting pieces that are interesting that people are going to read. They can cover a variety of topics. It could be maybe some recipes from a grandmother, or maybe it's traditions that your family still carries over to keep it very interesting. So it's a broad spectrum of information that we're wanting to put out there. Our primary source is our website. We've created a news blog called Celebrating Culture, I believe is what it's called. So all of these articles are organized under that tag. We've created social media tags for it, so when the article goes up, we share it on social media, and we're working on engaging people. The next step in this campaign is to entice residents to share their story with us. So not only are we pushing information and sharing information, we're asking for them to engage with us and provide us with information about their culture. But we have not shared this with the community yet, Council. We wanted you to see this flyer before it went live. But the plan in the near future is to get this out there as a tool to entice people to kind of engage and send us their information.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Scott on both sides of the family, and I know that they came to Texas in droves, and I have relatives that were in the Alamo, so I think Scott should be on here.
I will mention that to the commission.
Is there a national Scottish heritage?
Oh, we have national family reunions and things. I'm a Ewing, that's Scott.
We will take a look at that.
So, and I mean, in Texas, they really came here.
And that's a great example of how we can use this campaign in a fluid way that's not tied to what you see in front of you in this calendar. For example, Kwanzaa was December 29th, 2019, and Commissioner Holyfield wrote an article about Kwanzaa, and we went ahead and put that article out there as a way to say, hey, we've created this new campaign, keep your eye out for it, send us your information. So we're completely flexible and open to growing this and adding other cultural groups. African American History Month is obviously February, so we're just kicking it off. The article went live Friday, which would have been the 31st. We shared on social media on Monday, and we're talking about the Motown presentation going on in City Hall. So inviting people to come in, read up about Motown, listen to some music, maybe we'll have a dance party, whatever you want to do. Our goal is to engage people, right? We'll be working with the library on the various programs that they've got going on, specifically for the youth audience. So whatever we can do to partner with our other facilities, we're going to do. Tammy, did I miss anything? Do you want to add anything?
No, I think that you captured everything. It's just an opportunity to allow, I guess, the city's expression of cultural recognition and just acceptance, and to just illustrate the diversity of the community.
I just want to commend the group, you as Vice President. This is outstanding, and I really appreciate you guys working on it. I know they struggled initially trying to come up with an identity of what you guys wanted to do, and this is really stepping outside the box. So thank you, and I'll even tell your whole board thank you. It's a great job.
Well, I think since it's the social engagement partnership, there's individuals on the board that really have an expertise in analytics and social media, how to reach people. So I think it did take some time, but it was allows you to merge the different skill sets and use the talents of everyone on the board. So I don't think separately you may not have come up with something that really can kind of do both things. Number one, reach the community in various ways, analytics and stuff that I don't know a lot about, but also just the expressions of and recognition of the diverse population and embracing that. And so a lot of the conversation was, how do we engage the community and to draw out feedback, just like what Johnette offered. So that's definitely the goal.
But I know at one point, this council, we talked about doing away with one or both of these. And then as a group, the council decided to put these two together, merge them together. And you guys took that ball and took that challenge and ran with it. So even more kudos to the whole, to the board.
Well, I think Tammy she's a go-getter. She's a doer. So she probably took the bull by the horn and got her done, I imagine, knowing Tammy. So
We have a great commission. All of them are fully engaged, and I assign them articles and they get them to me, so it's awesome.
you signed an article.
Yeah, we looked at this calendar, we went through, and they picked articles that they wanted to write about. Championing Strong Community, or Champion Strong Community, and that may ring a bell because it was in the Mayor's State of the City speech and video several times. So we've already kind of planted a seed, or started to plant this seed of how are we going to champion strong community in the city of Duncanville. What Champion Strong Community is, it's about what do we do to make it better? How do we make it better? Why are we doing what we do to make it better? So we're wanting to elevate our brand and our visual identity and what people see coming from the city of Duncanville and give them a consistent look. So what you see here, it's very preliminary, this marketing campaign. I plan on working with our internal marketing committee and getting those folks together. Those are all of our departments, all of our divisions in the city, and they're going to actually tell me and us as a group what's important. What do we do day to day that we think is going to better tell our story? And then come up with a nice way to frame that. There you can see Councilmember Cooks painting the mural wall.
I did a really good job.
You did. And you are championing strong community by volunteering to paint that wall. If we have a great economic development deal coming through EDC, they're championing strong community by bringing great business partners and businesses into Duncanville. If we finish a bond project and we have a grand opening, or we've got a ribbon cutting, we're championing strong community. So, like I said, this is in the very early stages of development, but I just kind of wanted to give you a sneak peek of what we were looking at doing.
April, I think NLC they've asked me to be a judge of cities that have submitted applications for inclusivity projects they've done. And they have 5 categories. And so you might want to, for next year, do something along that line. Because they asked me to be a judge and judge the projects for 5 different tiers. We would be at the bottom for 50,000 and below city. And they go all the way up to 500,000 and over.
Absolutely. That would be a great MSDP project, I think. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or if you've got feedback for me, I'm all ears. Thank you very much, Council. I appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you. All right, that concludes our briefing session, and the timestamp on that is 6:47. I'm sorry, 5:40. Yeah, 6:47. So if it's agreeable, we can go into executive session and see if we can dispense with that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our City Council meeting for February the 4th, 2020. And pardon our being a little late. We had some business we had to attend to, but we'll go ahead and welcome you to what may be the shortest City Council meeting on record for this side of the city since the records have been kept. So with that, let's see. We have the invocation by Reverend Ginger Hertenstein from the First Presbyterian Church of Duncanville. Pastor, please rise. I did. Didn't I? Did I not call the time? I only banged it? It was 7:15. Okay.
Well, that's good. Mayor Gordon, council members, city manager, leaders, and citizens, please bow with me in prayer. God, we bow our heads, acknowledging that your wisdom is greater than our own. We bow, trusting in your goodness, faithfulness, and attention to detail. You care about what goes on here. That is a stunning blessing, and so we ask to be blessed today with real answers to our prayers. As imperfect people, we can forge ahead on our own, or we can humble ourselves and ask for your direction. We choose the latter, envisioning the good things which guidance from your hand might accomplish. God, the question has been asked, what is Duncanville's signature identity? City leaders ask one another, they ask our citizens. Tonight, we ask you, what have we to offer? What blessing do we bring? What gifts and talents make us unique? What history has shaped us? What is Duncanville's signature identity? Some may say, why ask God? Others say, only God knows. We here in this hall choose to trust that you do know and you will reward those who seek you. As we analyze and interpret our streets, and as we tell our stories, as we see ourselves, let us also see each other's assets. Then help us, God, with your enlightenment to create and recreate for this particular time in our city's history, for it is our time. Give us fresh dreams seen through the lens of good neighboring, economic prosperity, valuing inclusiveness, and willingly mentoring our youth. Thank you, God, for what you have given us. And as people of faith, we look forward in anticipation to your unfolding answer. As a minister of good news, I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. That's the new flag, yes. That is our new logo, yes. Okay, we will get underway, and just a couple of quick items for housekeeping in terms of how we're going to be proceeding tonight. City Council has already done the executive session. That has been completed. So we will not have to do anything with that. And item 4C on the consent agenda, we are removing that. The reason for that is that there was an application for a grant, and we have been advised that the city has not qualified for moving forward in the competition for that grant. So item 4C has been removed. And item 5A, under items for individual consideration, the council has determined we're going to move that onto items for consent. So City Secretary, would you please read the consent agenda items? Oh, I'm sorry, we have proclamation. I get way ahead of myself. Oh, mayor's, okay, mayor, yeah. We have, I need my York's peppermint patty is what I need. Mayor, we've just been informed that Papa's Barbecue is opening officially tomorrow. So that will take care of that. And any other that's the end of my mayor's report. Any other council members' reports? Mr. Cooks.
Yes, I do have one, Mayor and citizens. A couple of things. One, I had the opportunity to do a ride-along with our police department. One I did the morning shift from 8 until about 1 or 2. Excellent ride with one of our officers, Officer Bro. And then that Friday night, I also had a ride-along with our Duncanville police from 7 to about 1, as long as I could hold out. But we have a great, I had a great ride with our police department. I will tell you that we are really blessed to have the officers that we have in our city. They really do care about our city and everybody that they're protecting. So hats off to the chief. Chief, thank you very much for allowing me to have that ride along, and to the officers in which I rode with. Kimmer Middle School asked me again to participate in their 2020 Shark Tank. So the 6th and 7th graders had 1st, 2nd, and 3rd winners from their contestant from 2020 Shark Tank competition hosted by Duncanville ISD Science Department. I hope at a later time to invite those students who won the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd to come and really meet the city council. And then the other portions that we do have our Lunch and Learn, which is a special edition Lunch and Learn. It's, as you know, Lunch and Learn doesn't really mean lunch all the time. A special edition will be on a Saturday in February, and we're going to talk about policing, and we're going to talk about how we help our police department police our own communities, because that's probably the best way to continue with working with our citizens, is to help support our police department. So our Lunch and Learn will be on a Saturday morning at the Recreation Center on the 22nd of February. And I'm going to ask all citizens of District 4 or anyone who wants to learn more about how do we help provide our own protection with our city to please come join me. And then last but not least is the Shop Locally Duncanville. I have another story to tell with that. I know there's a couple of great fish places that I enjoy. One is up here off of Hampton, off of 67. Then the other one is in Oak Cliff off of Redbird Lane. And I got there the other night. There was a 40-minute wait. I heard behind the counter and saying, "Why are you waiting so long? We now have a new store in Duncanville." So I'm like, wow, I never have to travel to Oak Cliff again to get my fish. It is right here in my city to get my tax dollars to my own city. So hats off to Ronnie Jays, who's now in Duncanville, saved me a trip to Oak Cliff. That's my report.
Mr. Vera Cruz.
Thank you, sir. Just a reminder, the Heart of Duncanville 5K run is February 29th, last Saturday of the month. And what's unique about the run this year is that we're partnering with one of our sophomore students at Duncanville High School who needs a bone marrow transplant. And so we're working with Be the Match and coordinating with them to bring people out, not only to run and participate, but to swab, and maybe, Lord willing, we can find him a donor. So come on out. You don't have to run, but you can come out and swab and maybe be the one. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Ms. Jameson.
Yes, I just wanted to put a be careful out there. There is a respiratory infection that has gone around. Everybody I've talked to just about has had it. I just got over it. My husband is out with it, and the doctors say, people are saying, do you have the coronavirus? Because it lasts so long, and the flu, and just be careful and wash your hands and try to stay away from as many big crowds as you can, because particularly people with older people or younger people, anybody with an immune system that's compromised, because it hits hard, and we need to be careful during this season.
Thank you. City Manager's report. Okay, moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, proclamations and presentations. The first one is a presentation of the Keep Duncanville Beautiful February 2020 Business Beautification Award plaque and proclamation to Allstate, the Texas Whitaker Group, located at 1005 South Main Street. To receive that, Mr. Timothy Hamilton, from Superintendent of our Parks, and Miss Alice
Arnold.
Arnold. From our KDB, from Keep Duncanville Beautiful. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Monty Anderson. I'm glad to present this this proclamation tonight. I know in my own life and in my own business, anytime I ever have a problem, I look around and I try to figure out how to clean things up. And by cleaning up, my own life and my own business, it always makes me feel better. And so I'm really proud to do this tonight. So, and I know the Texas Whitaker Group is not here tonight, but so you'll make sure this gets delivered to them. So, whereas the City of Duncanville is committed to improving the physical quality of community life, and whereas the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board was established to promote this commitment, and whereas the mission of the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board is to empower Duncanville citizens and businesses to take responsibility for enhancing their community environment, and whereas each quarter the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board recognizes one commercial property within the city for significant improvements to the exterior portion of the property, landscape improvements, and or long-term maintenance of the property that exemplifies high-quality standards. And whereas the Allstate, the Texas Whitaker Group, located at 1005 South Main Street, has been selected as the Business Beautification Award recipient for February 2020. And now, therefore, Barry Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby urge all residents to join me in congratulating Allstate, the Texas Whitaker Group, located at 1005 South Main Street, and commending the business for contributing to the beautification of our city. Thank you very much.
Take a quick picture.
There you go. Deliver this. Why don't you hold that? Okay. And I'm Timothy on if you drive through Duncanville, at any time our parks and our open spaces always look so good. It's really nice to see that, and that really makes a difference when we're showing off our city at any time. Thank you all for everything you do to make our city look good.
And it's my honor to read a proclamation recognizing February 2020 as Black History Month, and receiving this is Tammy Abney, Commissioner and Vice President of our Multicultural Commission. Whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience. And whereas the history of people of African heritage goes back thousands of years and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in the history of human existence. And whereas African Americans have played a significant role in history from the early days of the pioneers to our present-day leaders in such industries as aerospace, finance, international trade, and government. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to reflect on the rich history and teachings of African Americans whose contributions are vast and wide. And whereas during Black History Month, all Americans are encouraged to reflect on the rich history and teaching of African Americans and bear witness to the progress, beauty, and achievements they have made throughout our region. Therefore, I, Barry Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim February as Black History Month in the City of Duncanville, and urge all citizens to join me in celebrating the collective ingenuity, creativity, cultures, and traditions of African Americans, and encourage everyone to participate in events honoring the contributions of Black Americans. So Tammy, it's our honor and our privilege and pleasure to present you with this proclamation in recognition of Black History Month in the City of Duncanville, February 2020.
I'll just take a moment to thank you all, and I'm happy to be here representing the Multicultural Commission. Excited that the city has taken an active and intentional role in recognizing the diversity and embracing all of the cultures that represent here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Yeah. There you go. Moving on to item number 3 in our agenda is the citizens' input, and pursuant to section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address the City Council on any matter of public business on any posted agenda item. However, the act prohibits council from deliberating any issues not on the agenda, and such items may be referred to city staff for research and other items. The council has indicated, and we have on record, that citizens are permitted to speak for 2 minutes. And so in order to do that, I've been given a card by a Virginia Kilgore. And if you please come up, give us your name and address, and note, as we discussed, you have exactly 2 minutes from the time you start. Thank you.
Gotcha. Yes, hello, my name is Virginia Kilgore. I've spoken with the mayor about this, and Jameson. I'm actually the founder of a nonprofit organization called Water is Alive. I'm working on how to save the planet and water quality. I'm applying for an Army Corps of Engineers permit to bioremediate the Trinity River. And I'd like to do this. Bioremediation is based upon using chemical reactions, mostly sugars, and as electron donors, and these electron donors actually consume things like E. coli and other kinds of pollution. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm taking my trash, this is kind of a show and tell, and during my speech, I'm going to be composting all of my organic waste from this week. I'm sure this is done here quite often. I hope you enjoy it. I've done this before in front of large groups of people, and it's gone pretty well. I hope you guys don't mind. So, one of my objects in this exercise is to hope that we can, as a human race, start composting all of our organic waste. This is one bucket. These are recycled buckets. And this goes in a closed bucket down here. And what I do is I use microorganisms, and these are mostly yeast, which are kinds of mushrooms, and bacteria such as lactobacilli, which you can find in yogurts and stuff like that. So what I'm doing is I'm inoculating my bucket, and I'm putting all of my organic waste in this bucket. So in Dallas, we are approximately 30 to 45% from everything that we put in our recycle bucket actually goes into the landfill. So this is organic waste, of course, never go in the recycle bucket. We don't do anything with that in Texas or in Dallas anyway. In Duncanville, surely not. So the problem is that about 40% of our trash is actually going into the landfill.
Your 2 minutes is up.
This is one way that we can actually treat the problems that we
Ms.
had
Kilgore,
last year. Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Kilgore,
Yes, sir.
your time has expired.
Okay, I'm finished.
There's been a call for a vote to allow her to speak. All in favor of allowing her to speak, please vote yea or nay. Continue.
Okay, thank you.
And I will permit you 2 more minutes.
Thank you, sir. So this is what I've just done with all my compost for the last week. Why this is relevant to us is because there's very valuable enzymes in here that are non-renewable resources. I'm busy right now with universities across the country trying to prove that this is true, and it's also been proven already. So this is very important for life itself. Not only that, the sugars that are members of all this compost in here actually donate. They're electron donors. So they actually eat E. coli, and this is part of my it's called the Trinity River Bioremediation Pilot Plan. And we are going to put filters that also have mushroom filters, but as well bokashi fruit filters in the Trinity River to actually address the problem of E. coli and other contaminants in the Trinity River. So I'm asking, not today, but some other time in the future, if we might consider using the platform of bokashi bioremediation. So I just covered this up. After 2 weeks, it's ready to be buried in the ground, and it has to actually come in contact with soil, because there's special kinds of bacteria in those soils that actually transform the enzymes in here into amino acids, which then produce DNA, and that's what we're made of. So my suggestion is that with the particular kind of contamination that was caused last year during breakage in the sewage pipes, that we find these contaminated places and we test this particular kind of bokashi remediation on those contaminated places to see how fast we can break that down. So yes, thank you so much. I believe that this will definitely draw attention not only nationally but internationally. I started on this where World War II started in Holland, and we're trying to clean up pollution with our trash. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have samples if anybody would like some.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to our consent agenda, and reminding folks that we have removed item C from the consent agenda, and we've moved item 5A from individual consideration to the consent agenda. City Secretary, please read the consent agenda items.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the January 21st City Council regular meeting. 4B, consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Duncanville, Texas, ordering a joint election to be held in the City of Duncanville on Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, for the purpose of electing a mayor for a 2-year term, 1 council member from District 2 for a 2-year term, and 1 council member from District 4 for a 2-year term. Item 5A, consider an ordinance amending Chapter 1, General Provisions, Division 2, City Council by adding a new Section 1-10, Termination of Campaign Treasurer.
Thank you. Chair will accept a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Please vote. Thank you. As I stated, we have completed executive session. There is no action necessary to be taken as a result of executive session. Moving on to item number 6, staff and board reports. Item 6A, receive the monthly financial report as of December 31st, 2019. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So, jumping right into our December report, it's the third month of the fiscal year, so our benchmark would be 25% of budget, both on revenues and expenditures. Our general fund ending unreserved fund balance was $14 million. It's 158 days of operations, and that's based on the FY20 adopted budget. That's about 83 days in excess of the benchmark 75-day reserve. Remember that we receive our revenues in during this time of year, and we spend those down the remainder of the year. So this is not an unusual situation for us to be ahead of the curve at this point. Property taxes collected at this point are already at 49.5% of the budget. So we've already collected almost half of our property taxes, and the majority of that will be collected in the January financial report. You'll see that escalate up to a much higher percentage. Overall, the general fund revenues are 32.8% of the budget, and expenditures at 19.7% of the budget. This graph is the one that I show each and every month. The purple line, or the bright pink line, is the budget on a straight line, as if revenues and expenditures were incurred equally over time. The blue line, or aqua line, is the previous 3-year average, and then the red line, the red dots, represent the actuals for October, November, and December. And so you can see on the general fund revenues how they increase during that December, January, February time frame. And if you laser out, look at that for the property taxes, you can see that we spike up during that time period through the end of January, and then we kind of level off for the remainder of the year. We look at sales tax, you can see that we are, of course, 2 months behind in receiving our revenues from the state of Texas, and so that's how they look as we trail below the line, but we'll continually move toward making the budget. If you look at our general fund expenditures, same thing as on the revenues, so you can see that we're trending so far this year just below budget. Our utility fund ending unreserved fund balance is $3.1 million. That's 58 days of operations based on the adopted budget. Utility solid waste revenues, of course, have a 1-month delay because of the billing process, so there's only 2 months of revenue that are reflected in the report. And the sanitation fund has an ending fund balance of $580,000, which is 50 days of operation. So again, mapping this out, you can see how the utility fund revenues, they're pretty well marching along that budget line. And then you look at the expenditures the same way. We're pretty much slightly below or on that line. And then our one-time projects, the Christmas tree, of course, was purchased, and that project is completed. The remainder of the status of the remainder of the projects is listed here on this page. And there's also in your report the quarterly capital improvement project report. With that, I'll take any questions.
Seeing none, thank you very much. Moving on to item 6B, receive Parks and Recreation quarterly report. Our director, Bart Stevenson, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, for the opportunity to be here tonight. Jumping right into this with the full-time personnel changes, last quarter we have not had any full-time hires. However, we do have currently 2 openings within our park maintenance division. We have a top candidate identified for our crew leader position, and he's in the hiring process, and we're actively searching for applicants for the field supervisor position. So we will have some opportunities for those changes in our next report in next quarter. Some of the measurables from our recreation center, from November 2019 through January, we had a little over 5,100 visits to the recreation center. This is a little bit down from our previous quarter. However, that's consistent with the history of the recreation center, with November and December typically being slow months at the recreation center. We've picked up considerably here in the month of January, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. These are some of the programs that we host here at the recreation center. I'll try to highlight different pictures of different activities each month or each quarter, with cheerleading, Camp Gladiator, pickleball is something we're really trying to push. That is a great sport for older adults. So we have a pickleball program every Monday morning, so I want to tout that, and then our youth karate program. Some of our special events over the last quarter. Obviously, we had our Christmas parade in December. I think it was one of our largest and best parades in recent history, recent memory. I wish we had a way to count all the folks who were there watching, but everything I heard from all the participants as well as the spectators, it was very well received, and it was really a great event. And then, of course, we had our new LED Christmas tree, which really highlighted the event with our mayor turning it on for the first time. So thank you. As I mentioned previously, we had a membership drive in January for the Recreation Center, and we were proud to report that we had 340 new and renewed memberships during the month of January, so that's a great turnout, and so it's really trying to grow our program. I'll take this opportunity also to invite anyone from our community who wants to share their expertise and their programs with our community. We are looking for new programs, so come talk to us. We'd love to have your event, your programs at our center, sharing that with our community. Some of the Recreation Center improvements we've done. In the last quarter, we've painted pretty much the entire inside of the building, including the game room, fitness room, jazzercise, and bathrooms. We have new display cases. We've trimmed all the mirrors in the dance rooms. It really makes it looks much better. You see the picture there in the bottom left. We've got new and updated signage. I know you saw one of the signs in your previous report tonight with the new logo. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the new lockers, including our small keys, wallets, and phones. Since I've been here in Duncanville, probably the number one thing we get stolen the most at the Recreation Center is cell phones. Because the kids come in, they drop off their keys and their cell phone, put it on the bench, and go play basketball or go play games. And inevitably the cell phones come up missing. So it's a great way for them to keep their valuables safe while they're participating at the Recreation Center. So, and then we did a deep clean of the facility as well. So it really is looking great. We invite you all to come out and participate. There's no charge. Moving on to the Senior Center, for our visits, we had, again, over 5,100 visits for the Senior Center. That is actually up from our last quarter, with 50 new members in the last 3 months. That's fantastic. So, again, great job to our staff at the Senior Center and really getting out in the community and encouraging our citizens to come participate. 5,100 meals. Again, you see some of our programs there. And I'll highlight some of these in our pictures with our ceramics program with Pat Weaver. We had a health and wellness fair that was very well attended by all of our members, as well as over 20 vendors to share their expertise with our community. And then our number one program right now is a cell phone class, smartphone class. I can't tell you how much, I think it's a waiting list for this particular class for folks to learn how to use their cell phones and get the most out of them. So great job. Some of our special events, we have monthly birthday celebrations, our coffee with the mayor. We have a new monthly bagel networking. We actually have Einstein Bagels, who donates a number of bagels to us once a month. And so it's a great way for, again, our seniors to come out and enjoy each other's company. This was, again, talked about previously, but we've completed the pavilion at Lakeside Park. It looks fantastic. Now staff is working on adding the additional parking that is needed to accommodate the additional people that this will hold in the park. And so that will be done in-house with our internal staff. Armstrong Park, we again are waiting for a grant news sometime in May, but we're moving on with the design, and we're about 50% through that process. Same with Harrington Park. We're nearing 50% completion on all the plans, and then we anticipate bidding that out this summer with construction starting in the fall. And I'll end with the two events we have coming up. This Saturday is our Daddy-Daughter Dance. There are tickets still available, however, they are going fast. We've sold 20 in the last 2 days. And one of the things I'm most proud of for this particular event is we are partnering with the Duncanville High School culinary program to provide the catered food. So a great way to partner with our kids. And then our Easter Extravaganza will be Saturday, April 4th. at Armstrong Park. And again, that's an event that's returning at your request, I believe. So we're excited about that and look forward to great times. With that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Proceeding on to item 6C, receive the Fieldhouse Quarterly Report. Mr. Craig Brassfield, Fieldhouse Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, Kevin, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to present the first quarter report for 2020 for the Fieldhouse. We'll get right into it. As far as our revenues for the quarter, wound up at $229,385, which is $30,000 more than the previous quarter of 2019, and that represents about 15% of our budget. Expenses were $242,296, which is $22,000 over last year's same time. That money represents the curtain that I'll show you in a few minutes, as well as our new operating system, RecTrack, is where that money's actually spent in that month. Breaking down each month, we had 3 basketball tournaments, 2 leagues, 1 martial art tournament, and 1 community event. Represented $3,456 increase for the month of October, while expenses were $11,961 over previous quarter in 2019. Moving on to November, expenses were lower, revenues higher, and while we had 4 tournaments for basketball, 1 league for basketball and martial arts, and a community event. December was a really good month. We were $17,000 over previous year in revenues, represented by 3 basketball tournaments, 2 martial art tournaments, and 2 citywide events. We were $6,000 over previous year in expenses, but hopefully we'll get going here in the next quarter and level out. Again, we had more people than we did the last quarter of last year. Same time, up 8,075 people. There's the curtain. The 360 gym on the blue side is now a private, has an opportunity to be private for volleyball and basketball. So that was put in the first couple of weeks of January, and well received for the atmosphere there at the Fieldhouse on the blue side, the 360 side. Another thing we have brand new, we just launched this month, last week actually, is our streaming service. We have the ability to stream every event at the Fieldhouse. It's run through our partner Linestream Media. Very little or no data to report at this time as we just launched it, but we're looking for some really good things with the app and the ability to stream our events. Sponsorship's a big part of what we do, pretty much resetting for next year. We have collected some monies already in the quarter that reflect there in the green on the right side, but we're constantly trying to add more sponsors and obviously collect on the ones that we presently have. With that, I will try to answer any questions.
Do you see an opportunity to put the new logo in there at all? I noticed.
Yes, sir. It's the old logo, and the gyms has been replaced with banners. So for the most part, yes, the old logo is gone.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Jamison.
Where is the comprehensive, the total printout of expenditures and? So it would be not in his, but. Because this is very difficult.
The financial, it's in the financial report section in your packet, all of the Fieldhouse expenditures and revenues to date.
And the one that we were given by Richard?
In your packet. Well, it's included in your packet has all of the breakdown, all of the departments, including the Fieldhouse, is in there.
In Mr. Summerlin's is what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. It's in item 6A in your packet, the financial report. The field house is on page 10 of 13 on the attachment.
So is there a question on that, or are we finished?
Yeah, I didn't see that. I was just, it's very difficult to follow because we have a note that's having to be paid, and we show some coming in, but I don't see,
Mr. Brassfield, can you give a quick summation of this, please?
Sir?
Can you give a quick summation of this, please?
I'm not
The
sure.
overall financials.
For the first 3 quarters?
Yes.
We're up $30,000 in revenue and 22,000, we're plus 8,000.
and that is minus the note on the bonds?
No, ma'am.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's so,
Richard will need to explain that. What the field house manager is showing is the operations and maintenance, which he has control over. We do not have control over the debt payment. The debt payment is paid out of the EDC fund.
so we're not
Richard,
really
will
up.
will you mention that?
What Mr. Hugman said is absolutely correct. We basically do a transfer in one time a year from Economic Development Corporation to cover the note payment. But if you look at the year-to-date revenue on page 50, it's $229,385, which was congruent with what Craig presented versus year-to-date actual expenditures of $243. So overall, their expenditures have exceeded by about $22,000 their revenue, but they're coming into the time period here with the spring and summer of some of their bigger tournaments. So typically, if you follow the trends, their revenues will increase dramatically during these next few months.
Right.
And their expenditures should remain.
So you take the payment out one time a year for the EDC?
Correct.
And when is that?
Typically, we do the transfer at the end of the year.
Oh, okay, so it will be at the end of 2020.
Well, it's just a wash because the Economic Development Corporation pays for that. So it's basically that we do transfer from economic development to the field house because they've agreed to pay for that, and then the expenditure goes out for the debt service.
I understand that. What I'm talking about is, are we really up? Or are we really down?
Well, as I explained, at the moment, we're $22,000 running behind, but the expectation and the trends will indicate, and you'll see that in future months as we hit the heavier tournaments.
But we haven't made the debt payment yet. That's at the end of the year. So we're going to continue to.
The overall budget for the field house shows a positive amount, and if you look on that page, on the revised budget, the budget for the field house in revenues is $1,921,321. The budgeted expenditures are $1,918,527. So that is a positive amount. So if we hit budget, we will be positive. And I believe last year we ended on a positive note. We did end plus.
Do you remember how much in the plus we were last year?
Yes, and that's the first time that we have been positive on the field house, ever.
And as we explained, we hold Mr. Brassfield accountable for the operations of the facility in terms of revenues and expenses, and he's not accountable for the debt load. So when we look at the operating statement for the field house, that's what the council should be examining, with the understanding that there is a debt load that's not going to be paid for quite some time. So in terms of what Mr. Brassfield is accountable for, it's a P&L statement for revenues and expenses for what he can control. And that is pretty well understood, I believe, by council. Okay. Seeing we're at an end there, we are adjourned at 7:59.